Conversations with Life. We are happy to have Colby Naha. Colby Naha?
Sure.
Colby Naha? I am saying your name wrong. It's Colby.
No, a more like feminine pronunciation is starting to take waves.
Oh,
I
interesting.
can go with that.
Okay, well, okay. The wave is happening.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're here with myself, Cedar, and Sochi and Keith, with Colby here today, and it's delightful to have you, Colby. This is the first in-studio guest we've had, and we'll have more, but we want to have this conversation. We're having this conversation this season about path, about the question that is life, and how we're meeting that. You know, what are the questions? And I think that's my first question for you, actually, is what are the questions that you feel right now, like in your path? We'll just start with that one. What questions have driven you into your path? What are you really curious about? What have you been really curious about in your life?
Like, what is my purpose? What am I to do here? And how am I supposed to do it? But maybe more so like become it. Because I was enforced to just do things and be a human doer instead of a human being, and so now I am in this dance of both of those things, and in creating a path where I can feel like I'm doing and being. Yeah.
I'm sitting here just like delighting in the recollection of the first time we met, our first few experiences together. I'm wondering, like, what are your impressions and remembrances of both meeting me, but also like kind of where you were at that time?
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah, Sochi and I go way back, and I was just such a newbie in the hippie world, and a new person into my life beginning, seemingly. Like, yeah. I mean, I had just got out of a 10-year marriage and a 30-something life in the LDS or Mormon church, and yeah, like meeting you and being in environments like that was so exciting and invigorating, and very vulnerable, and and like as I look back on it, as I speak about it now, it's even more vulnerable, because at that time I didn't I was just jumping into whatever felt right and good and fun and new.
Yeah.
And so I look back at those moments and those times and our beginning friendship as like very dear and very precious, and like increasingly important as I like slow down in life and try to soak it in more. But yeah, it was, it was a group, Conscious Connections.
Well, actually, I met you before that. I don't know if you
when
remember.
When did we meet?
But my son.
Tell me when we meet.
My son introduced me to you.
Oh gosh, yes.
So this was like maybe a year before Conscious Connections started.
Oh my God. Okay, so how we met was through your son, and I remember like the moment I met Michael and Brandon, and I was still in the church. I was still married. I was still very Mormon Colby. And yeah, our common bond was cold therapy. So that was and will always be my like ultimate practice. Like if I'm not getting in cold water enough, I feel it. And it's even been like in the last few months and like not doing it long enough or enough or the right setting. Anyways, that was like my first psychedelic drug was the cold water and breath work. And so Michael and Brandon were just getting into it. And I feel like that was kind of the beginning wave of all that.
Yeah, first of all, I can't even imagine Mormon Colby. Honestly, you're such a character and delightful, right? You have a delightful and like wild energy.
Yeah.
That I'm trying to picture you sitting through a fucking elders quorum meeting, and I'm like, how?
I was doing
How
that.
did you do it?
With that.
How did you stuff all of Colby in that?
Oh, no.
I can see you sitting there like, oh God, yeah, no wonder you needed some cold water therapy.
I don't know how I did it.
And I do want to, yeah, I don't
for
know
so
either.
long.
I kind of feel the same about myself, you know.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the cold water for a minute because I hate cold water. Like I've done cold water plunges, and every time I'm like, why the fuck did I just do that?
I feel like I walk outside my fucking door and I'm doing a cold water plunge. Like, what the fuck is this place, man?
Yeah.
Take me home. Like, I want to go home.
They don't have cold days in Australia.
They have cold days. Just not trying to bite your nuts off. It's just
Yeah.
cold.
Yeah.
You're talking about cold water. Like, give me a hot tub.
Yeah.
And a nice stiff drink. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Respect. I don't know.
A human might live in Utah with the 4 seasons very apparently their whole life and always will hate the cold.
Yeah.
And that's so sad. That's so not just sad, it's stupid. It's ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel
I'm
like
from Australia. I feel like
you're an
I'm not
exception. But like, yeah, it's like, oh yeah, the cold's here. It's like below freezing. Well, yeah. What did it do last year? Well, they're like a fender bender, and they're like us in like 2-hour traffic. Yeah.
It's interesting.
It's like it's that dramatic thing to complain about. Like, I'd rather complain and dramatize about more important things. Like, this is the earth. Welcome to it. So it like taking cold showers, like that was the first agreement to myself that compelled me and taught me and fueled my life. Because it fueled my mind and my body and my breath all at the same time. And I chose it. I chose this path of doing the cold because it came to me. And everything in my life up to that point was spoon-fed to me. And like, I'm gonna fucking cry about cold showers. like this is when I began to come into my body. I'm like 29 or something, and there was a few things in alignment for me to go, okay, I'm gonna take cold showers for 5 days, and commit to that. Like, I'm gonna do it. Like it was just me in my bathroom, and a YouTube video, and then a life coach friend. I'll give him credit, Dave Swinson, who was my stake president's son that was like a couple grades below me. And so I grew up next to this kid, and here I am coming out of, well, at the time I was coming into my life of graduate degree, a marriage that's seasoned with kids and our first house, and like everything's supposed to like get better and better from here. And it turns out it was just gonna get like tremendously worse and worse. But I found the cold, and I found breath work through that. And so I did 5 days, and then I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna do a month. I'm gonna. Can I say F's? You're gonna like.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
We don't bleep out shit.
Okay.
We're not for kids.
Yes,
Okay, great.
This is a full language spectrum podcast.
Yeah. I mean, and to mention kids, like I remember that the those first couple weeks were so apparent. Like my wife at the time would work early mornings, or I can't remember when she worked, but I'd be watching our daughter, and she'd be like, "What are you doing?" You know, she could barely talk, and I would just waking up, just taking cold showers, and it was just so good and so miserable, and I dreaded it too. I dreaded it. And so fast forward, I remember thinking, like, when am I going to stop doing this? And a few months in, I was like, I don't think you ever get used to this. And that's how great it is. How easy the mind is to get used to something. You get used to running this distance. You get used to this. And like how good that is for our primality, our evolution, our growth, to do something that will always be hard. You know, and research is saying, like, Huberman talks about in a podcast episode of, there's this part in the amygdala brain that only grows when you do something uncomfortable. But you have to do something uncomfortable for it to grow. Once you get used to that, it will stop growing. And so that's kind of where I'm at now. Like, cold is, it's still hard for me depending on the situation, but now it's like, okay, what else? It catapulted me into that mentality of like, I can do really hard things, and I can do them with a consciousness to it that I never could before. So
Well, it strikes me that, we just did this one on finding edges, edges, boundary, respecting your energy, and also meeting those growth spaces. And so it's perfect for that. I loved it. And I think the magic of it that I can see in that is doing something that is by nature uncomfortable, meditation, other spiritual practice, those have a level of discomfort, but this one really, that cold water, just puts my system in a it feels like,
and that
panic.
edge is important. I love that you say that, because knowing like how long to stay in the cold, or even breath work, knowing how long to continue the hold or continue the holotropic breath in and out, like knowing when to stop, knowing when to start, knowing when to get out of that cold water before it wipes you out the rest of the day. It will just, you won't, if anyone's listening that knows cold water, like if you do it too long, it's not like, oh, I ran too much or I lifted too much and I just gotta baby that for a minute. I just need to eat more calories. Like, it'll just wipe you out the rest of the day. You just have to start over the next day, because it's so big on your system.
So then what's the opposite of that then? If you hit the right time,
yes,
what benefit are you seeing from being in the cold shower? Because like, other than after a workout, I have never wanted a cold shower.
Yeah.
I've been told to go take one.
Yeah.
Usually by my partner, but I've never actually wanted to do one by myself.
You really, really get the most benefits when you're fully submerged into the cold. The cold shower is almost harder, and it's a tease. It's just like, okay, it wakes you up almost. For those that are completely new to it, yeah, it sure wakes you up. But doing 2 minutes in a 40 to 50 degree ice bath, and like, you really had to breathe through those last 60 seconds. The first 60 seconds, just like, okay, what is happening? I can just be here. And then once you're in that surrender, and you reach a certain point in your body, survival hormones are being released, like, what do they call it? Like a cold shock protein. There's literally a protein being released in your body that only is released through a cold plunge. And to answer your question, it's like bliss, like, it's like, I don't know, I compare it to my first like 20 rolls MDMA or like a certain psychedelic. Like you can't get those first back. Like those will always just be so special. And whatever's happening in your life at that time will be so special. So the first couple years of cold plunging, like that's how great the high is. Like the first 20 mollies or whatever. It's like, it's just the first 20. We're talking like, I look back on this and like the first 2 to 3 years of cold plunging, like it was that sweet nectar euphoria the rest of the day, especially like 2 to 6 hours or something like that afterwards. You're just so clear. Everything feels good. You're making great choices with your body, of your diet and all these things, and it's just you're in bliss, and it's so natural. It's just the best natural high. And then when you incorporate breath work into that, this is a practice. This is a reminder for me to be here talking about it, just like how much I've slipped in my practices. That ideally you're doing like 10 to 20 minutes of breath work and very sincere, intense breathing before you get into the cold. So when you pair it with that, it's tremendously better. So I mean, it took me like 8 to 10 months to start regularly breathing in accordance with the cold, and then it just really took off.
So if someone's going to do that first 5 days, what's the tip? How do you get started? Do I go down to warm up, buy a few dozen bags of ice, fill up my tub and just hop in? Like, what's the deal?
I think I was a special case. I really needed it depending on like everything that was happening in my life. Like my soul knew it was about to get really crazy. So I was just committed. But the first thing that came to my mind when you asked me that was like, find someone else, find an accountability partner that's ready to do it too. So you can talk about your experience. So you can go to the local plunge bathhouse place together. Just in a couple months here, going into the rivers and the lakes. That's where it's most fun, in my opinion, is next to the trees and in the rivers.
So you started with showers, and you wouldn't necessarily recommend that for beginners. If somebody wanted to do a 5-day challenge, what would the protocol be?
I don't know. I just read this motivational thing out of this motivational book. Start where you stand. Start where you stand in that practice, and if it's
stand over there, the shower is like 10, 15 feet that way.
Yeah,
that's where I stand.
Yeah, I would say start with cold showers because you're going to be showering anyways, and may as well just like start today. Like that's what I would tell anybody about something this important. Because to me, I mean, that's what I will preach and, teach and be passionate about the rest of my life. Because that's really what saved me. That's really what woke me up. Like, all puns intended, was doing breathwork and cold showers. So, like, I would say, like, start with cold showers, and within your first week of doing it, call up an interested friend and go to a local bathhouse and spend $20-$30. There's tons of them around here, because then you get the full experience, and because you're sweating, and you do off and on. You do however long you want to do in the cold, 1 minute to 5 minutes in the cold, and then you're next to a 200-degree sauna.
I'm so interested in this path. It's so interesting because you're a Mormon guy. You start doing cold plunges.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's kind of what moved you into a new
I think it was a big
being?
Yeah.
Or was there other stuff? Was it just life kind of conspiring, and that was a practice that you leaned into to deal with it? Or do you think that kind of like ignited your process?
Yeah, a little bit of all that. I think it gave me the confidence to start experimenting with other modalities, start going to meditation groups, starting to be a little more bold in my ward. And, I was in the elders quorum presidency when I started to question. And so it gave me the confidence to like do what the women were doing, which was having like a offshoot support group for women. And I was like, why aren't we doing that? So let's do that too. So I kind of led that. And, it certainly gave me the confidence and the right brain chemistry to be in a safer place, as safe as I was, all things considered, to start to step outside that.
It almost feels like as you were talking, what I perceived was that it almost like gave you back enough of yourself. Yeah. Something like you met yourself there in a way that was more true. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, the word authority is coming to mind.
Yeah.
You found and took back more and more of your authority.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And you leaning into those difficult things where somebody says, "Oh, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this," to choose a practice. I don't care what the practice is, but to choose the path.
That was the biggest thing.
That's like that moment.
There was the biological, physical thing happening of all the benefits we talk about, but that, I mean, and I mentioned that was the first choice that I made to step into my own authority that made me feel spiritual, physical, mentally well and happy and excited for life. Nothing in the church up to that point provided me that.
And
it was this illusion that I'm okay, I think I feel gooder. I better go back to that temple thing because that makes it feel good.
Yeah, and then you're broken because you're not feeling good enough to be what you're supposed to.
I drink black tea in that drink.
I mean, hey, like I had to, like I gave up a lot. Coffee was the hardest thing to give up joining the church. I'll tell you right now. But okay, so my position on this in this little team that we've created, right, is I'm the layman questioner. That's my job, right? What would the idiot ask?
Yeah.
And then every now and again, I drop in a nugget of some random wisdom I picked up somewhere, mostly from these two. But I also get to play the teacher role. And whenever I hear a story like this, right, and I think to myself, what was the question that cold plunges answered? Because we don't make changes as drastic as jumping into a tub of ice or not turning on the hot tap in Utah. Yeah. Unless there is a question that needs to be answered. Yeah. And so when Steve's like, what's your question? Yeah. And you're like, what is my purpose? My question is like, to share a bit of backstory, 2 years ago, went through a divorce, ended a 10-year marriage, left the church. I'm looking at you right now being like, how long have you been out of that? Is this like a future path that I've got to look forward to? I'm 36 right now. Like, am I going to start? You saw my shirt at Revival. Am I going to like jump into a cold plunge? But I know, like, I had a question that wasn't being answered, and it was, am I worth loving? That was my question, right? And the answer was a resounding no, and something inside of me was like, fuck this, man. Like, this can't be the correct answer, right? So without like, asking you to pour your soul out, what was your question that you feel like cold plunges were at least the beginning of the answer to?
Yeah, thank you for that. Something along the lines of, am I lovable? Like, what part of me is, yeah, it was such an interesting thing because I was so I was so asleep, even in the process of it. Like there was a lot of ego involved in those first couple years out of the church, and me doing the cold and doing the breath work and finding other people that wanted to do it with me. It was really just exciting. It was really just, it was a very juvenile, or a very adolescent initiatory feeling of like, this is part fun and exciting, but also like there's something really important in this. And yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'll just say I don't know right now, but like kind of echoing and mirroring off of you of just like what beyond like what is my purpose in all of this? It's like what is gonna help me be the love that I want from another person. As you know, I was saying goodbye to this old life where I got all my connection from, I got all my community from.
Yeah.
I'm saying goodbye to my wife. You know, in a lot of ways, saying goodbye to that version of my kids
And yourself.
and myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's a powerful thing to talk about because I'm still in that. I'm still in the self-discovery of all that.
Well, you know, I think one of the things we posit here is that we should always be in the question, right? I think we come up with answers. But if we come up with the answer, I think we're cooked. We might as well die.
Ding, you're done.
You know, I don't think you get to be done. I think we kind of, there's part of us that wants to be. You know, like, I just figure this shit out already and be done. Yeah. And but the bigger reality is like, can we sit with the question and be okay? Yeah. Even as with that surrender the answers, even as we're trying to find the answers, you know. So the question about this, you know, what's my purpose? What have you found? What's been that? What's that looked like for you? What have you found out?
I went from, in a lot of ways, I went from one cult to another. So in this other counterculture cult,
Conversations with Life, not conversations, but you mean
Conscious
Connections?
Yes, definitely. That was one of the first. Yep, definitely.
It was it was a branch of the post-Mormon hippie cult.
Yeah.
Post-Mormon, like recapturing your adolescence.
Oh,
cult.
it triggered the hell out of me. My like favorite go-to hippie song, you know. It's like I don't want to sing this, like it makes me feel good. Like in that same kind of way of,
had a family home evening vibe to it sometimes.
Well, I really like, I'm not devout, or I'm not very astute of this man and his work, but enough. Richard Rudd and the Gene Keys. And by diving into that a little bit, you know, my city and my life purpose is celebration. And it just, when I discovered that, I was celebrating the fuck out of life. I was like, yes, like this, I can trust this man. Like, we are to celebrate existence. And so to answer your question, Steve, I like, that is my purpose, to continue on my path, to feel like I am doing that every day in some small, medium, or big way.
Your medicine comes through, brother. I mean, you have that delight. I just, anytime I'm in a container around you, you are just in it. It's just delightful.
It's
really
like a
is.
soul confetti. Like you walk in the room and my soul lets off confetti inside. It's just yay.
I cut you off at cult though. I want to hear more about the cult that you joined at the that you feel you joined coming out of the church, joining one cult to the next.
That's been really fascinating and terrifying. Well, it's something I agreed to or knew of at the beginning. What's the book that really helped me? It was like The Sin of Certainty. Does anyone remember that one? So it was a faith crisis out of the Catholic Church. And it was suggested to me in the sentiment of like, Utah doesn't have anything extra special. People faith crisis all the time, and it's gonna be okay. And like, and there, it was so soothing of like, oh my God, there's cults like that. That is what humans do. That's what we do in community and tribes, and it was really helpful. And so it's really beautiful to remember that, because it was this light bulb of like, okay, that's this opportunity to forgive all of my first faith path of the Mormons. And meanwhile, my subconscious was like, well, yeah, you're going to join Conscious Connections, and you're going to go join ecstatic dance people, and you're going to go into the festival burner world, and you're gonna like join several hippie, subconscious cults. Subconscious for me, while I had thrown the baby out with the bathwater enough, I still needed that community, like anybody does or would. And someone really important in my life and my family passed away. And during that year, I'm happy to go back to that death, but to focus on this question, I started to do breath work in cold events. And I mean, I mentioned ecstatic dance and the community of that and how important it has been and is and will be. That was like the anticipus of my events, was collaborating and kind of testing people out and who I could work well with. And I found a brother, and our event, our ceremony was cacao, breath work, dropping into a little bit of movement in that, a cold plunge. And this really like tested my cold plunge of having several horse troughs up to this point. I think I broke the back of my trunk window in my cross trek twice that year of lugging troughs around.
Okay.
Yeah.
You
like
need a pickup truck if you're going to get
that's
the first
truck would be helpful. So breath, cacao, movement, cold plunge, and ecstatic dance, all within like 3 to 4 hours. And it was just like, that's everything someone needs to heal, according to me at that time and many others. And it was amazing. And I did 4 or 5 of those and was starting to get consistent. This death happened, and I was kind of on hold. Like, I need to heal more. I need to be with my heart more. And that brother I was doing that with, like, because of our entanglement, he, I just coin it this way. Like, one day he just broke up with me. One day he was just like, essentially through text, your silliness and your trickster energy enough is not welcome here, and we're done. And like up to that point, I had like had that mother wound struggle enough with love and partners and forming relationships with women. But for a man to like break up with me like we did, like he did in that moment, it was so big for me at that time of like this counterculture cult experience. And it broke me even more. And it still hurts. And you know, like on occasion I still buy chocolate from this man, and I still see him. And you know, after that it became like what he represented, and like how much I had just not known myself enough to not get hurt like that again. So I don't know. Fast forward a couple years after that, I was like, there was good reason that I was, but like I was removed from a super spiritual festival for not staying sober at a sober festival. And that was really hard. Like, just kind of this part of me that is anti-authority. And yeah, it's been a tough couple years since then of like believing in myself to do the work, to create experiences where I can be in celebration, like I've talked about, and help others do the same.
I was going to say, it's really hard to celebrate anything when you don't feel like you're doing anything right. You know, and so like I've been in that like sort of self-worth spiral piece of being like every step I take is the wrong step, and it becomes really difficult to find a thing to celebrate. And so to make that your mission while you're also going through the counter experience of constantly feeling like you're not celebratable. Yeah. Like that's an intense decision. That's an intense purpose to pursue. So that's awesome.
Yeah. What's the shadow path of that city?
Of that is expectation. Expectation is the shadow, and the gift is detachment.
Fascinating.
Yeah. It really is. It's the best.
It's pretty descriptive of your path.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. So you know, behind all of these illusions of, let's say, the tribe. In this sense, the tribe is that illusion for me of like I need to be in some type of formal container to feel worth, to feel safe. True spiritual modalities of the East have been crucial for me. You know, like as I began to do breathwork and cold plunging, I had a little bit of background in meditation, just enough to like feel inside of me like, oh, this is when I meditate the best in 36-degree freezing water. All I can do is focus on my breath. So to do that now in formats like ecstatic dance, to do that in psychedelic containers, to do that at the gym, to do that on a run, like to have a belief system of breath ingrained in me enough is you know, it's the missing link in all of these pieces that have been extremely challenging.
It strikes me, community is this funny thing, right? And the cult of like New Age or spiritualism or the new spiritualism versus the cult of the old spiritualism, they share many of the same problems. And one of those is they're never going to be it. But man, we want to solve our wounds in it. And one of the funny things about community to me is that it will show you how, it'll show you, it'll kick you out and kick you around. Yeah. And that's just as valuable as accepting you and loving you and keeping you, right? Like both of those things are super valuable. I mean, we think we're in community so that we can have this nice community. It's going to be all peaceful and harmonious. And that just never is the case. Yeah. Isn't that weird? Yeah. Like we are going to get any good community should challenge you. And sometimes eventually either you kick yourself out or you get kicked out. Yeah.
It's like you get bored of it, you're ready for something new. Yeah,
or you grow past. Or they're not, or somehow they're not in vibe with you or something. And both of those, I think, are really valuable pieces.
Yeah. I think for several months to years, now in this new faith crisis, in this new
me too.
Yeah, it feels
daily faith crisis.
That feels really good to say out loud. It feels really beautiful to realize now I can always fail forward in this. Just a few weeks ago, it was my son's birthday, and the tobacco snuff, rapé or hape. I pull it out, and I'm with my kids. I'm with a past partner. There's kind of something going on there, and just supporting each other at this time, and I pull out rapé, and I'm like silenced. The tact that was used of the authority in this gets up, and it's we can't do that here. I get it, but you could have asked me after. There is no need for that. And I was so worked up about it. And so now I get to choose this. If I go to a container and if I'm not prepared, it was a choice because I wasn't prepared for it. Or I am safe and I'm in celebration of my life and I'm prepared for it, then I can know everyone's imperfect. Mm-hmm. Shit is gonna happen in any kind of group that you're in and with, and I want to show up to that.
Yeah, this is so just beautiful and nourishing. My heart is just drinking this in so much, and just feeling our kind of the ways that our paths have kind of woven in and out, not in any kind of conflict, but just there are times where we've been closer and times where we haven't had a lot of contact, and this moment in time seeming to bring us in closer space together again, and feeling this very similar oh my gosh, I think I just joined another cult that wants to take all my time, talents, and resources. Yeah. And I did it because I wanted to hang out with my friends. And then I didn't get to hang out with my friends because we were too busy doing all of these big projects and rituals and events. And I was like, oh, I actually just want to hang out with my friends. Where's that cult?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, last night I could have been in so many places and could have called so many people, and I had one really close friend and a new friend that he introduced me to, and I'm just starting to have movie nights at my house weekly, and I had that thought after just watching a movie and serving a charcuterie board to two friends That's life. Can that be a fucking ceremony?
Yeah,
be a cult?
Can that be a cult?
That could be a cult.
Charcuterie movie night. Yeah. I mean, that felt so good to just Faith Crisis 2.0.
Yeah.
Right. Or how about
Faith Explosion 2.0.
6.0, 8.0.
Yeah. All of it.
Yeah, maybe a faith crisis is the container. Again, to sit in the question. Maybe the point is that we're in it that way, rather than having to settle in a thing. And isn't it funny that the normal shit, at movies and friends and a charcuterie board, you could, if you don't go through the processes, that never is a ritual. You're just somebody doing the thing that's expected to do, and everybody's like, "What are you doing?" Oh, I guess we're gonna watch a movie, or whatever. But man, when you've done the circuit and you've done the weird shit,
thanks, Mom,
the crazy stuff, then you're coming back to it, and now you're like, "This is a ritual.
This is the best."
Feel this. Now I can be normal, and I absolutely.
Wait, you don't start drinking. We
cool
drink
about it.
this seltzer water together. I can't start. No, I was like, we do it together. Well, I already drank a sip.
Seltzer water to your heart.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
I'm gonna scoop
Yeah.
the seltzer water.
Yeah, and I think one of
It's
the
so
things
true.
that like tends to cross over no matter what, and weirdly I see this even in the sex positive and tantra thing, is this purity culture thing. Like somebody's rules have to sneak in that start becoming the currency of the container, and nobody's talking about it, and most people don't even know that, and it creates a hierarchy based on how well you follow whatever the rule is.
Yeah.
And you may not even know what the rule is. You have to figure it out, you know? And then you start to have experiences where it's like, you know, like you were saying in the hape, like all of a sudden you're in trouble for doing hape, and you're just like, oh, okay. And then, you know, Cedar and I are getting ready to go into deep ceremony again after both of us, it's been years. And since we went into a really like structured traditional ceremony, and we got on, you know, a call last night with the facilitator to kind of drop in and hear about the rules and everything. And here's this thousands of year old traditional ceremony. And there's something so exquisite about doing it the way. And also parts of me, like little red flag moments of like, you know, dropping phrases like, we want to do this a good way. And I'm like, what's the bad way? Is there a bad way?
Yeah.
And then kind of like feeling into, is this like masculine, feminine? And so, yeah, Cedar and I have been in conversation all day about this kind of like, you know, purity culture versus holding a container in order to create a very specific experience, which I think is beautiful. And then somehow finding our own sort of version of that, you know, even with our own body. And so I'm just curious about if that brings anything up for you.
Yeah. I think people like us can be really influential pieces and symbols of like containers like this you're talking about. And it's like, can we honor a tradition? Can we honor someone greater than ourselves and greater than even a small collective's experience, and beyond just an experience, like a truth, like a spiritual truth, and yet also challenge it. And the challenging of that is challenging the people that are the imperfect pieces behind the big, deep spiritual thing happening in the universal earth thing experience we're having. I mean, I think that's where I want to shine more, is to show up in a place and be there for my own healing, and also know that like I'm going to have an opportunity, a conscious moment to trigger somebody or something, or you're not supposed to do this, and you're supposed to do this. And either challenge it in the moment and ask why, or just like, oh, I've already been here. You probably know the answer. Just do it. Ask for forgiveness.
It's so interesting. I've had experiences where I trigger people just being in the room, being in my own energy, and somebody's like, well, I don't like your vibe or whatever. And I'm like, I'm sorry for resisting. having maybe trauma or something. I don't know what is going on here, but I think I'm just being like loving and nice and kind. And
that joy is not allowed here.
Like,
Too much joy.
Don't bring that positive vibe shit in my house.
I didn't have to say anything. And someone decided, I don't know, maybe I looked like their father, or I said a word that was like
transference.
Oh yeah, the transference thing. I've been studying this lately.
Yeah,
we need to talk about that sometime. And it is just. It's just fantastic the way that we trigger each other. And this is you mentioned Trickster. And we did a
archetype.
We did an archetype season. We didn't talk too much about Trickster, but it's a really important archetype. Yeah. Can you talk about how you felt Trickster in your path?
Yeah, I am very familiar with the shadow of it for me, and like I remember being in 3rd grade or something, and was then, I did some kind of sexual thing where you put your finger where your thing is through your pants, and that was really bad. And then
like a Japanese game.
I was wondering where this is going.
I can't remember.
Just simple, like pretend we
put it out of your fly and be like, what is? And it's not actually. I get it.
Just pretty regular weird boy shit.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And then in the same day or the same week, I threw my jacket up into the ceiling of the school, the classroom, and like I was an attention seeker. I didn't get enough attention at home, so I went to school and around my peers and wanted to be a silly boy, and I was, that all the way up to getting removed from a super spiritual festival with really incredible artists during the solar eclipse last year. And like I see why they did it, and the tact of it. I literally had a very close friend come down and go, "Hey, like they not only do you need to pack up your stuff, but like they just called the police, man." What? They just called the police on me? So I watched the solar eclipse last year next to 2 really chill Texan police officers. I'm like halfway packed, and I'm like, can we just watch the eclipse together? And the really chill, bigger black one was like, "Dude, where'd you get that hat? That's really cool." Like, did you really? Yeah. I will never forget that moment. Thanks, guys. Thanks. The trick's on you.
Oh, that is like the ultimate Trickster moment.
And this is so funny.
Oh my God.
And I am like an hour to 2 hours away from my mission, where I served my 20-month mission.
Oh my God.
I got sent home a little early for being the trickster that I was. 20-month mission. Yeah, it's supposed to be 24. I remember the irony of it, like just, wow, this is great.
Here we go again.
It like rained on the fuckers so good the next day. I'm like, yes, I'm in a nice little Airbnb and you're just getting rained out. Yeah, but in a compassionate note to the facilitators of that group, like I danced next to one of them just a few weeks ago, and it was just good to like be in my path and my life and my love and my dance next to one of the facilitators of that. But yeah, I've learned that's such an important archetype, that like I am to just help people take life less serious. And that's a really, when I can be in my own truth just enough, that's not hard to do, because people are so rigorously serious these days.
Yeah,
they like, that's even like a connotation. Like I can't think of any, but like serious. I'm like, I got that from Alan Watts. Like we are to never be serious and always sincere.
Yeah, I love that, sincere versus
to be in that sincere play.
Life is too important to take seriously.
Yeah.
Right? It's too meaningful to take seriously. Who
and
stand it?
And it's too meaningless. Like, this is the thing. It's too meaningful and it's too meaningless. At the end of the day, we're both going to end up in the ground or in an urn or like shot into the fucking sun or something.
Yeah.
So like I love it. Okay, so I'm a teacher, and the slang drives me nuts, right? But only when it's my kids. When it's my students, I think it's hilarious. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But my 13-year-old daughter, she said to me the other day, dude, it's not that deep. And I hated it, and now it's my favorite thing to say. I'm just like, it's not that deep, man. Like, it's not that deep. Yeah. I'm just like, it's the most invalidating validation ever. It's like, it's not that deep.
I love that. I can see my daughter saying that.
It just has that vibe of like, it's not that deep, dude. It's like, some big deal.
I don't think she knows how to say that to me, but she says that to me under her breath and in her mind often.
Yeah.
It is, though. Your mom is doing this thing to me.
Gosh, don't get me started.
I think it's one of the valuable, shadow side of Trickster. That in a way, Trickster is the shadow that comes into holy moments and makes them even more holy by holding itself there in its contrariness, in its subversion, in its, full human life, shit. And I absolutely adore the energy, and sometimes it's hard to be with, for me, my own Trickster, right? My own self. Like I come in and I'm just like, what?
Yeah. And
why do I have to cause such a problem for myself?
In a recent container that we were in, I really saw that energy in you. I did. And not just you, but both of you.
That was the sweetest way to say you were such a fucking asshole that I've ever heard. That was so beautiful. I saw it in you.
You are a glorious trickster yourself, and just thank you for going down this rabbit hole, because like I don't know, what is it? What did I? I read and listen to just enough of a lot of things. Is it the Book of Joy? The Book of Joy with the African. Who is it? Yeah, I can't think of who it is.
Is that the one that's the Dalai Lama?
Dalai Lama and the...
I can't remember the other guy.
Yeah. They go into... There's a whole...
Desmond
Tutu.
There you go.
Yep. Yeah, so they have a whole section on laughter. Like, right after deep compassion, where you just saw the most horrific car accident and the person's dying, is like... is to be in so much grief and surrender to that you then laugh. Like, something about it is so silly and so crazy that this happened that you then surrender into just like, none of this makes sense. And so when you can be in a consciousness of that's the true trickster. And that's, whatever the transcendent archetypal process of the magician. The magician is extremely hilarious and knows all parts of the thing happening. And so, like, I don't know, I want to be a part of more like laughing groups. Like I've been in a couple
cult of laughter.
The cult of laughter. I've been in a couple formal containers where like we intentionally laugh. And, someone could be in the saddest moment and then it just like make it up. Just let it out and you'll start to actually surrender to just pure bliss, laughter.
Well, like one of the things we say on the podcast, or that I'll say from time to time, is that consciousness is impossible, right? Like the only thing, consciousness is kind of constantly trying to leave itself so it can see itself, so it can find itself, which is a funny ass game, right? Like, that whole thing is ridiculous, that we can't just be God. We have to leave God and be ridiculous and fart and like and do the stupid things and have everything that is sacred come back in our fucking face. Like, all the time this thing is trying to work itself into ridiculousess, Just like the genders, like a penis is ridiculous, like sex is ridiculous. The whole thing is fucking funny, man. Like, it's like so much of that is like, On
a flatulent note, I recently empath farted. You know how you know you're empathic when you yawn,
right?
And someone else yawns. I had no idea I could bust out a fart, and it just happened, and I had these farts ready to go, and it was a woman. It was a woman who farted, like very socially unacceptable, and we were out like camping and out in the wild, but she farted, and then like all of a sudden I busted out 2 big farts, and was like, that was an empath fart. Like that's this trickster. I'll fart right back at you.
I see you and I raise you one.
It is, and there's times to be serious and to hold solemnity and to hold, these things. And I think the trickster needs to be held in balance, right? So, and the subconscious trickster will take it will, when you move to power or when you move to some kind of dominion, control, stupid energy, whatever, it'll find a way to fuck you up. Thank God, for that. And, that's like that one side. But on the other side, to consciously court that energy and to be in the energy of, in a way, subverting almost, holding the opposite of everything that you want.
To bring that into like community and tribe spaces, I find myself either in way too serious of a group or way too ratchet crazy, everything's allowed of a group. So, and to give some context, like a full crazy burner festival group or like a super zen, we're going to meditate for 4 hours here with complete silence or something. And so I think for me, having the best of both of those worlds is where I thrive.
Yeah.
Because I can be sincere when I need to, and I can just be exactly who I want to be when I need to of silliness.
Yeah.
And so whatever that looks like, I want to be an influence for more of that.
Oh, I love that so much because that's where we're going to meet ourselves,
Yeah.
One side or the other, and we're trying to escape into the discipline or the holiness, and we're trying to escape in the reaction and just, it doesn't matter. It does matter, right?
Yeah.
And there are things that are funny and that will subvert your holiness, right? To hold on that consciously, we're more likely to meet ourselves in that kind of container for sure.
Yeah.
We're running out of time here. Last words from this conversation. This has been delightful. I'm so happy we had you on.
Yeah.
And this felt timely and like really good, process and as well as just I'm excited for this episode to be heard.
Yeah.
So any last words from anybody from the conversation?
I'm gonna try a cold shower. I don't know about the rest of you.
I am too.
Great.
I am too.
Get back in it.
I'm doing it.
I want to get in a cold bath. I got to do that. Like
My son and I are working on a cold plunge in our garage.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've been working towards setting up a little thing.
That's where it's at. Like if you just have one friend, you can call me. Like I'll help you figure out a way to make that a regular thing. Beyond the cold shower, because like the cold shower's there.
Good start.
Now's the time to do it in the winter where it's colder. But yeah, a horse trough is $140, and all you gotta do is fill it up in the winter and get up.
Leave it outside.
Leave it outside. That's it. That's all you gotta do.
Can you imagine, Soch, you come to my house next week and I've got a freaking cold plunge tub in the front? You wouldn't be surprised.
I would not be surprised, Keith, because I've come to your house. How long have you lived here? Like 6 months?
No. It's been like 9 months.
Okay, 9 months though. Still, I've come to like at least 3 different entire overhauls of how you have your house arranged.
Instead of the library office, it's just 2 horse troughs and a mirror or some shit. Like you're like, what the hell's going on here?
Big mirror.
Okay, Colby, we'll give you the last words.
Yeah, the highlight for me was, I felt this connection with you, Sochi, of like faith crisis 2.0, like just and endless faith crisis to explosion. I remember that moment when I'm like, crisis is over, the transition is over, and I have the whole world to soak in and understand and love, and faith explosion. So that is the biggest takeaway for me now. And I have seen and noticed and just to go back to what I said a few moments ago, of like the too serious, the very serious, and the very playful. In both of those worlds, in my study, there is shifts happening. There is like from Burning Man being set up in tears to like whatever, whatever, like friends going back to church that have fully left and now they're going back to regular Mormon church. Like, that's great for you. And then confusing and weird. But you know, that to bridge that gap is what I want to be a part of, and what I want to surrender into more of my life, and that's been truly like healing to talk about that with you guys, because we can't do that alone. We're not supposed to. So let's unite and do things. You know, be willing, loving, playful participants of those doing things, and also creating our own opportunity for people to come and heal, whether it's movie night or whether it's a more formal ceremony.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Just wonderful.
Honor to your path. Beautiful questions and process you by this.
I say, we got plenty of light. We say namaste all the time. I say namaskray. The crazy in me honors and loves the crazy in you. And there's two sides of that. There's the silliness of that, namaskray, but in Sanskrit, and a very sincere note, it's namaskar. The scar in me honors the scar in you.
Wow.
Well, thank you all. With that, we'll leave you, and thank you for tuning into Conversations with Life. And this has been our first guest. We'll have more. This has been just delightful. And please share this with anybody that you might think might benefit from this conversation tonight. And listen, we'll keep making them. You keep listening. Get on socials. Ask us some questions. We'd love to hear from you. And so have a beautiful wherever you are and whenever you are.